Welcome to the Not Old Better Show. I'm your host, Paul Vogelsang. As part of our Smithsonian Associates Art of Living series, our guest today on the Not Old Better Show is Washington City Paper writer Noah Gittell. Noah Gittell is a film critic and essayist for the Washington City Paper. His work can be found in The Atlantic, The Guardian, The Economist, LA Review of Books, Esquire, and others. And he's a regular on-air contributor to BBC's Talking Movies with Tom Brooke. Noah Gittell will be presenting a red carpet night with Oscar at the Smithsonian Associates program, and we'll learn more about the movies nominated for the Academy Award and why we all care so much about Oscar. And we do.
I've watched every Oscar ceremony since I was 7 years old, and I'm fascinated by why that is. I'm fascinated by why I care about them so much. The Oscars are political. They rarely award the right film, at least the one that holds up historically, and they are a shameless bit of self-promotion for the movie industry itself. And yet they matter to me in ways that I still can't quite justify or understand. I think we love the Oscars because they're a constant presence in our life, a way of connecting the past to the present.
That, of course, is our guest today, Noah Gittell, who will be at the Smithsonian Associates program presenting a red carpet night with Oscar, Monday, February 26, 2018, 6:45 p.m. at the Ripley Center in Washington, D.C. Please join me in welcoming to the Not Old Better Show via Skype, Noah Gittell. Noah Gittell, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, Academy Awards night is coming up March 4th. I'm still seeing movies. I'm sure some of my audience is still doing that, and I might not have my list quite ready, but on February 26th, you're going to be at the Smithsonian Associates program, a red carpet night with Oscar. So give us just a sense as to what we'll learn from you that night.
Well, we're going to talk about all this year's nominees, and there's a lot to talk about there. Mm-hmm. But more than that, we're going to try to answer a question that has plagued me from when I first started following the Oscars when I was a kid, which is, why do they get it wrong so often? I mean, the list of historically good actors, great actors and directors who have never won a competitive Oscar is so long and filled with some of the greatest film artists in history. Peter O'Toole, Alfred Hitchcock, Judy Garland, Cary Grant, Howard Hawks, Barbara Stanwyck, more recently Annette Bening. These are people who have never won an Oscar. And to explain this, people say things like, well, the Oscars are political. But what does that really mean? What forces are driving the choices of this rather large and increasingly diverse awards body? So what I want to do at this presentation at the Smithsonian is to dig into the meaning and the history of the Oscars to figure out, A, why they so often get it wrong, and B, why we love the Oscars so much anyway.
That's going to be really fascinating, because this idea of history, you kind of mentioned this, you allude to this, this notion that it might be a little political. Maybe in the minds of some, there's an overcompensation maybe from year to year, but maybe talk a little bit about the history of the Academy Awards.
So this is how I think about it. The first Oscar ceremony was in 1929, and the cultural context was really fascinating. This was the era of Hollywood scandals, the first era of Hollywood scandals, really. In this decade, there was the scandal of Olive Thomas. She was a young starlet who committed suicide when she found out her husband was having an affair. Her husband was Jack Pickford, who was the brother to Mary Pickford, who was one of the biggest stars on the planet. And Olive Thomas's funeral was like a Hollywood event. Everybody who was anybody in Hollywood was there. Shortly after that, there was the Fatty Arbuckle scandal. He was a huge star who was tried, never convicted, but tried for rape after a woman died at one of his legendary Hollywood parties. And crusading moralists and yellow journalists used this incident to indict the entire industry. And we have to remember, this was a fairly young industry at the time, and the future of Hollywood was not assured. It was not a stable industry by any means. So it was in this context that Hollywood decided to celebrate itself. The Oscars were devised as a promotional tool, with the idea being that if there could be a best picture, then the movies must be inherently good. And in many ways, this is still how the Oscars operate. They exist first and foremost to serve the industry. So when we talk about the Oscars being political, that's often the context that I look at it through. How does this choice serve the industry over another choice? And that's often why you see, say young Hollywood starlets like Jennifer Lawrence or people like that, Emma Stone, winning Oscars so early in their career, because this is an opportunity for Hollywood to build their stars up, and stars are so important to the future of the industry.
I think that history is so interesting, and I love the details that you're going to share, the Fatty Arbuckle stuff. And let's have a trivia discussion, Noah Gittell. Tell us some other Oscar trivia items and what you might share with us.
Okay, a few things come to mind. Here's one. Most people think Tatum O'Neal is the youngest person to win an Oscar for Paper Moon. She was 10 years old when she won Best Supporting Actress. And that's true when it comes to competitive Oscars, but the Academy actually awarded Shirley Temple a non-competitive Oscar in 1934 when she was only 6 years old. And the reason they did that was because they thought she might actually win the Oscar that year. She starred in 10 films in 1934, and the Academy thought it would be kind of silly to have a 6-year-old win Best Actress, so they took her out of the running by giving her this special award. Here's another one. Do you know, Paul, how the Oscar got its name?
I don't know where that name comes from.
So the story is that there was a librarian at the Academy who, upon seeing the statuette, commented that it looked like her uncle Oscar, which is bizarre to me, because her uncle must be a naked guy with no face carrying a sword. I never quite understood that, but that's the rumor. Here's one more. Harold Russell was a Navy sailor who lost both his hands in World War II, and he was subsequently cast in the great post-war film The Best Years of Our Lives. Now, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but the Academy didn't think he would win. He was a non-actor, or a first-time actor, at least. They really wanted to recognize his performance anyway, so they gave him a special award early in the evening. Then, later in the night, he won the competitive award anyway, which earns him a special place in Oscar history as the only actor to win 2 Oscars for the very same performance.
Those are fun things to share. Thank you. We're of course with Noah Gittell. Noah is going to be at the Smithsonian Associates Program February 26th for a red carpet night with Oscar. Noah, this year, I think 2018, some are saying at least that this is the year of the auteur, and Jordan Peele, Greta Gerwig, Christopher Nolan, Guillermo del Toro, which isn't to be confused with Benicio del Toro.
One critic did confuse them recently, so it's not a mistake you want to make.
Not a mistake I want to make, absolutely. Not talking to you, the expert that you are with all of this. So why is it important that this is kind of viewed as the year of the auteur?
Well, I think it's noteworthy for this reason. When the Best Picture winner is announced on Oscar night, it's typically the producer, not the director, who gives the speech. There are exceptions, of course. When Argo won Best Picture a few years ago, Ben Affleck gave the speech because he famously was not nominated that year for Best Director. People thought that was outrageous. And the momentum for Argo winning Best Picture was largely seen as a makeup for that oversight. So he gave the speech instead of the producer. But typically the producer is the most important figure in Hollywood because film is inherently a collaborative medium. Directors, writers, actors, etc., they all come together to create this thing we call a movie, and the producer is the one who brings everyone together, makes sure everyone gets along, gets financing for the film. Producers like that they are the ones in charge. They don't want any one individual artist to have too much power because then they have less. It's a zero-sum game. But this year, 7 of the 9 Best Picture nominees were directed and written, or at least co-written, by the same person. Every film nominated for Best Picture except for The Post and The Darkest Hour, which are notably 2 films that nobody is expecting to win Best Picture. So this indicates that there's some sort of shift going on in the ongoing behind-the-scenes power struggle in Hollywood. Artists with strong creative visions like Jordan Peele or Greta Gerwig are gaining more power in Hollywood, and some of the, producers like, Harvey Weinstein has less power, and that's a really significant shift. And there's a lot of reasons for it, and there's a lot of consequences to it. I don't know that we're in a place yet to really tease all of them out yet. I think we need to see where this goes before we get quite to the bottom of it.
Okay, so this is a good place to jump and talk a little bit. And this is my last question with you, because I do know you're very busy. But why don't you give us, kind of a handicap a little bit about the Best Picture nominations, and tell us, what to expect. What are the odds? And do you recommend we see it? I mean, I've seen Darkest Hour. I've seen Dunkirk. I've seen The Post. I haven't seen a lot. I haven't seen the rest of them. So maybe tease out that a little bit for us.
Sure. Well, if you like movies, I think they're all worth seeing. All the Best Picture nominees are worthy of a couple hours of your time, although there's certainly some that I liked more than others. What's really exciting about this year is that there are probably 5 films nominated for Best Picture that I think have a shot at winning. Usually that's not the case. Usually there's 2, or at most 3. But this year, I think there's only 4 that we can knock out and say they really have no shot, and those would be Darkest Hour and The Post, which I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Dunkirk has a shot at Best Picture, although it certainly was a very commercially successful film, and it did get a Best Director nomination, which is an important precursor, but there just doesn't seem to be any momentum for it for the top prize. Call Me By Your Name also I don't think has a shot at Best Picture. It was not even assured to get a nomination. It's largely seen as kind of the last one in to this category, and although it was revered by critics groups, I don't think it's going to kind of catch on with the Academy in the same way. It's kind of an esoteric film. So that leaves us with 5 films that all have a shot, and of the 5, my favorite was Phantom Thread. I thought this was a really beautiful, interesting, funny, dark film, very hard to classify, which typically would make it a long shot with the Academy. And I do think of the 5 remaining, it is the least likely to win Best Picture. But it is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who is widely considered one of the greats of our era. So I think that gives it a shot. It's Daniel Day-Lewis's last screen performance, if he can be believed, and I think that might make them want to honor it as well. Beyond that, we can look at 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which was the early frontrunner for Best Picture after winning a lot of critics' awards and the Audience Award at the Toronto Film Festival back in September, which is a big precursor for Best Picture. But there's been a bit of a critical backlash to the film. Some critics of color have taken issue with its depiction of race, and there's been a kind of a furious fight about it online and in op-ed pieces. So I think that's going to knock it off its perch, which leaves us with Get Out, Lady Bird, and The Shape of Water. All very good films. Of the 3, Get Out is probably my personal favorite. It's the most kind of zeitgeisty movie of the year. It's been a big topic of conversation from its release back in February of 2017 to now. But I think Lady Bird and Shape of Water are really the top 2 contenders here for Best Picture. Lady Bird won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy. It's nominated in all the Best Actress. Saoirse Ronan, the lead actress, is really well liked by the Academy and has been nominated before, and Greta Gerwig is kind of seen as a rising star as a writer and director. But it is a comedy, and as we know, the Academy doesn't typically go for comedies, which is why The Shape of Water is currently the frontrunner. It has the most nominations. It's political in a kind of non-divisive way. It's also about movies in a way. The lead character watches a lot of movies, and that's part of the plot. And we know that Hollywood loves to award films about filmmaking. So I think when all is said and done, The Shape of Water is rightly the front runner. But again, what makes it so exciting this year is that I think any of those 5 could take the top prize on Oscar night, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Noah Gittell, writer, journalist, Oscar expert. This is just a fascinating time of year. It's kind of award season, but the biggie, the granddaddy, is coming up, and you are coming up at Smithsonian Associates February 26th. But thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna kind of keep track of these films and give our own kind of grades to some of them. And I'm personally looking forward to seeing more of them. But thank you so much for that rundown. It was just fascinating.
You're welcome. I hope everyone comes out on the 26th. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Noah.
You're welcome.
My thanks to our guest today, Noah Gittell, who will be at the Smithsonian Associates program presenting a red carpet night with Oscar Monday, February 26th, 2018. For more details, please check our website. My thanks as well to the Smithsonian team for all they do to support our interviews. As usual, we'll post links to everything, and also as usual, my thanks to you, the listeners, for joining me today. Your time is valuable, and I'm grateful you're spending some of it with me. I'm always interested in feedback, and you can leave that at iTunes, Google Play, or send me email at info@notold-better.com. Stay tuned for our next show, another great one as we talk about better. The Not Old Better Show. Thanks, everybody.